Greetings, everyone. Happy Sunday to you. Cow dog, come here, buddy. Hey, man. Oh, you're doing good. It's a beautiful day today. I hope it's beautiful wherever you are. Good Lord. What a January we've had. Hey, I want to talk to you real quick about something. I'm sure by now most of you have encountered some people just due to loss of patience, this bad weather that we've had, so many different things going on, the pandemic, so many things causing us to be frustrated to no end. And that being said, I've run into a lot of people who, I'm just going to be honest with you, they say whatever's on their mind. Do you know those type of people that say exactly what they're thinking at any given moment? The type that really don't care if it affects the other person, whether it does it negatively, whether it does it positively. They say good things, they say bad things, they say whatever they want to say right then and there. And they also just jump to irrational decisions real quickly. They just flat go. We literally call them people who are frontally disinhibited. And do you know anyone like that? Maybe perhaps someone that's in your inner circle that's like that, kind of embarrasses you sometimes. Well, I guarantee you, if you own a dog, the vast majority you probably have that someone in your inner circle. And let me tell you what I'm talking about. The reason why I label people who just kind of shoot off at the mouth, just make irrational decisions, don't even think about it, very impulsive, is I call them frontally disinhibited, because the frontal cortex, as it turns out, is that portion of your brain that's responsible for many things, but mostly learning, and it acts as a governor for that good old gushy, supercharged emotional limbic system. And if you don't have a lot of activation in your frontal cortex, you're going to be extremely impulsive. And science is showing us right now that a lot of dogs don't have a lot of activity or activation in their frontal cortex. And this is really important because the frontal cortex is that area of the brain, again, like I told you, it's a governor for that limbic system. It's also about learning. And it was the last portion of the human brain to evolve. And in humans nowadays, in modern humans, it's the last portion of the brain to develop from a maturity standpoint. And that's why in science, they call 30-year-olds adults. Legally, you're an adult at 18, but you're certainly not an adult from an emotional inability to control those impulses that you have. And the reason why I want to talk to you guys a little bit about this today is because, impulse control is a greater part of dog training. It really is. It seems like you're constantly battling impulses. The impulse to jump on people. The impulse to bark at darn near everything that just moves. The impulse to eat everything around you. The impulse to give chase to a squirrel out here versus coming when called. The impulse to pull you. Golly, I can keep this up all day long. You know what I'm talking about. Dogs have natural impulses, and they act out on those impulses unless you either disrupt them, or you deactivate them, or you curb them, or you just put that darn tornado called impulses in a jar and put a lid on it every now and then. But it can be difficult, and the reason why it can be difficult is because you're dealing with an animal who has to survive based upon impulses. Yeah, they don't get a lot of time out in the wild to think about, should I chase the elk or should I not chase the elk? Oh, geez, that thing just zigged. Now I have to zag right at this moment. Am I going to go for it or am I not going to go for it? Time is not their friend. Seasons change. The cold is cold. They don't get to predict the weather like we do. They just have to deal with it, and they have to make decisions based upon impulses. And you're dealing with an animal those impulses are governed by three major rules. One, an immediate reward is always going to be more appealing than a delayed reward. Eat it now before the other darn fella eats it. And also, a swift and immediate offense makes for a great defense when you're trying to either guard a resource or you're trying to take a resource from someone else. Have you guys ever seen that little Marshmallow Test that was done by Stanford University back in the 1970s? If you haven't seen the videos of that, I encourage you to do so. And it showed little children that were all under the age of about 9, and these children were given a marshmallow, and they're told that, hey, if you don't eat the marshmallow, in 15 minutes from now, I'll give you another marshmallow. So you'll have 2. But I'm going to leave the room. I'm going to leave you in here with this marshmallow by yourself, and I'll be back in 15 minutes. And it's hilarious. I encourage you, I'll try and drop a link to it down on the thread. But it's funny because you see these little kids, they pick up the marshmallow and they lick it. They put a couple licks on it. Some will actually start singing songs. Some will start counting, doing all this cognitive shifting to control themselves to keep from eating that marshmallow. And the studies have shown, and it's been repeated many times, you get some varying different results from different research groups. And of course, under peer review, there's some controversy as to exactly what was learned because initially it was thought that the children who held out, who waited for that second marshmallow in 15 minutes, grew up. They tracked them through the years of their life when they grew up, showed to score better on aptitude tests and also to do better in school and to generally just be a better person all the way around, be more successful in life. But what science has now been studying is the frontal cortex on dogs. And a lot of it is designed to determine what do they know? What do they know? What can they learn? What controls them? And better hoping that we can have a better life for them and to create more information and more knowledge about their behavior, which then, because the number one reason why dogs are giving up is because of behavior, is because of behavioral reasons. So the more that we can learn, the better, we're going to all be better off as dog owners and the dogs that we own. Now, what they're learning is this. Our frontal cortex takes up about a third of our brain. Dogs, only about a paltry 1/10 of their brain. And when they perform what's called no-go tests inside of MRI imaging, brain scanning, brain imaging, with various breeds, and also a test called object permanence test, they found that 2 classes of dogs did far better than all the rest. And those 2 classes were, number one, the herding class. And the dog that did the best out of the herding class was my good old cattle dog Captain. No, not him individually, but the cattle dog. Hunt cattle dog. Everybody, give me big. Oh, boy. Oh, he's just a knucklehead back there. He wouldn't prove it to you. But the cattle dog actually did the best. Then the border collie. And then they worked down from that to the sporting group. And that was like your Labrador retrievers and a lot of your bird dogs. And they started wondering, why does their brain show more activation during these tests, like the no-go test and the object permanence test? Why did they do better? It's because they have more ability from a genetic level to control their impulses. And that's vital. That's vital for learning and vital for surviving. And it is believed now that those 2 classes of dogs over non-sporting dogs, toy dogs, hound classes of dogs, developed that frontal activation because when you think about the wolf hunting sequence, it is first of all, locate, then stalk, chase your prey, catch your prey, kill your prey, dissect, ingest your prey. So, of course, as we started to evolve ourselves and start to have animals, livestock that we wanted to keep, and we wanted to use these dogs to help herd them and control them, we started thinking, okay, all right, locate them? Yes, got it. That works like a champ. So go ahead and keep that little wolf part of the hunt sequence. Give a good chase to them, stalk them and chase them? Yep, got that all day long too. But when you catch them, can we just not maybe catch them, but maybe motivate them to go into that corral over here and then maybe go next to these sheep over there? And certainly don't kill them. And definitely don't eat them. So we kind of curbed all of those natural instincts. We deactivated many of those natural instincts. And we said locate them. Stalk them. So watch a border collie sometimes, they stalk up on the sheep. And cattle dogs, they push cattle. But go ahead and give a good chase, and if you have to, instead of catching them, give them a good little nip in the butt. Make them go that way or make them go this way. In other words, make them do your will. Use those fangs. Give them a good little nip in case they're reluctant to go in that little pen that I need to go into right over here. So you can imagine, after all these years of artificial selection, we encourage genetic development that would curb the instinct to kill the livestock, to then dissect it and ingest it. And we just kind of kept all the rest of it. And I tell you what, when you're allowing an animal to chase another animal, a predatory animal like a dog or a wolf, to give hot pursuit to another living creature, you are tapping into the most fundamental, primal instinct that animal has. That is the number one thing you must get done on the planet Earth. Life can be broken down to nothing more than an exchange of energy for more energy. And when you keep expending this much and you're only getting this much, you're not going to live on this planet for very long. But that's what you're asking your dog to do. You're asking him, give this much energy. Chase that darn thing, stalk that thing, run here, run there, walk a little bit, chase a little bit, come to it, lay down, stay, come to me when I call you, away, go to me. All these different commands. You're asking an animal to give this much, and then at the end of the day, maybe you give a little bowl of food so it only gets that much. And when you do that, that is going completely and utterly against the grain. And we've done that for hundreds of years with herding dogs. So even in my own household, we have two Morkies, Dave and Poe. I've talked about them a lot. They're about 11 years old, little Maltese Yorkie mixes. Kara calls them fondly, she calls them a term of endearment, the rats. And then we have Cattle Dog, my Australian Blue Heeler. And I'm telling you, training him was an absolute cinch compared to them. If he starts to bark, I can tell him quiet, and he's quiet in an instant. I tell him go to place, he goes to place. Those Morkies, oh, I tell you what, they will make you want to quit training sometimes. They're very difficult. They're very impulsive. They hear the least little noise and immediately, bam, off goes an incredible high volume of barking. And if those of you who own small, tiny dogs of the toy group, you know what I'm talking about. A lot more difficult because we just did not need them to control their impulses like we needed an animal who was chasing our food, controlling our food. So the reason why I wanted to put this video out and just kind of talk about it today is, well, I find it very interesting, but the biggest reason is I always preach, work with what you have. Always work with what you have. Accept it. You have to. Look at your own individuality. I know my strengths, I know my weaknesses, and at this age of my life, I've learned to work mostly with my strengths and not so much with my weaknesses. I'm kind of going with the grain. I'm not going against the grain, not swimming upstream all the time. Work with what you have. Doing that allows you to place and establish realistic training goals. What's real and what's not going to be real, no matter how hard you try. Look at me. I don't care. I could have LeBron James be my personal basketball coach, and I guarantee you 6 months from now, I am still not going to dunk a basketball. It is what it is. So I work with what I have. Definitely do that with your dog. Establish realistic training goals. Not just make up stuff, not what you see on some video someone else doing with their dog because they happen to have this fire-breathing Malinois or some German Shepherd doing all this fancy Schutzen and KNPV stuff, and you own a little Bichon? No. I mean, it's nothing against trying, only when trying starts breaking the boundaries of cognition. And I always tell everyone, attention, motivation, cognition. What's the cognition part? Are you even capable of learning what it is that I'm trying to teach you? What am I fighting against? Pick battles big enough to matter, small enough to win. Always think about that. You know, and doing so takes the pressure off of you, and by golly, it takes the pressure off your darn dog. So again, I don't train Dave and Poe at the level that I train Captain. I don't place demands on them that I place on Captain. On Captain. Yeah. No, I'm realistic. I'm realistic. And I've owned lots of different types of dogs in my life, and I've always obeyed that. So guys, the reason why you need to know this is from a genetic level, there are classes of dogs who have more frontal cortex activation, which means they have more control over their impulses, which means your ability to help harness that control, direct that control, is going to be easier with them than it is with other classes of dogs. And that last part, it'll help find what motivates your dog, what works the best. That's why some dogs will give a hoot about chasing a ball, but if I broke out a ball right now, if I got out a ball, I could leave this camera running all day long, and Captain would run that ball down until he either dropped dead or until I ran out of battery on this phone. But if I do that for Dave and Poe, not happening. They don't care. But I get them a treat. Oh yeah, now I have their attention. Work with it, guys. The frontal cortex. It was the last part of the human brain to evolve. It's the last part of our brain to develop from a maturity standpoint. It's there for learning, but it's also there to control your emotions, impulses, and you're battling all those natural impulses. So just take it for what it is. Work with what you have. If you do, you and your dog will be a whole lot happier. Untitled dog. All right, guys, this is a beautiful day. I hope you get to enjoy it yourself. If you have any questions, drop them down there in the thread. I'll be glad to comment on them. And stay tuned for the next video, because I'm going to kind of segue into another behavior that we can work on. And keep in mind that a good old frontal cortex up there, baby. Do not be, by the way, do not be one of these people that I'm going to call you frontally disinhibited. Control yourself. Yes, ma'am. No, sir. Like they say here in the South, I've learned. Some people pitch a fit. Don't pitch a fit and see what you get, or whatever the term is. So anyway, I probably screwed it all up. I'm out of here. I'm getting out of here, guys. Have a great day. Goodbye.